What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to tear the wheels off the CRF110 behind me here, and we're also going to take the suspension apart a little bit. Just to add this link, it's going to lift the rear suspension up about 1 inch, it's claiming, so let's get to it. Right, so we got the back tire off now. That was easy enough. It's just a couple of nuts on either side, and you got your main axle nut, and you take the brake adjuster nut off, and you just kind of push it forward, get the chain off, and then pull it backwards, and then it'll drop right out for you. Next up, we'll get the front tire out. Alright, well, we got the wheels out now. Got them on the floor over here. I'm gonna mount these Starcross 5 hard compounds on there. My buddy was complaining that at high speeds on like a dirt road or something like that, these would feel really spongy and sketchy. So the harder compound should give the feel of a little more control while you're at high speeds on looser material. But I'm gonna turn my attention to the shock here, because I'm going to pull this bolt out and I'm going to put a shock extender in there. This is the shock extender I'll be putting on. It goes right in here. I got this off fasterminis.com, so I'll link it down below in the description if you want to check that out. So to take this out, all you'll need is just an impact rider, an extension, 17mm socket, and 14mm wrench just to back it up. Okay, so I got that in there now. I got the extension in, so I put a couple of washers on this side and 1 washer on that side. I was gonna fit 4 in, 2 on either side, but it wouldn't fit. So now all I gotta do is find the torque specs and torque the bolts down. All right, so the service manual says torque this to 50 pounds. So I guess I'll torque this to 50 pounds as well. And I'll be using blue Loctite. Alright, so I was torquing that down, and where is it? As you can see, that kind of almost snapped off there, so it's kind of funny. I just bought new ones the other day. Good thing. Alright, so now that I got this shock extension link all torqued in, I'm going to move to the front of the bike and start taking it apart. These handlebars got to come off because the triple has to come off and the wheel has to come off again. And I'm going to take these forks off and put some aftermarket parts in them. So these are the BBR springs I'm going to be putting back in the front forks. And I'm also going to be putting in these damping rods. And when I'm done all that, I'm going to be putting this triple clamp back in the stock one's place, just to rise the bars up a little bit. So I had to pause the time lapse there just because it was getting a little bit tippy here, but it seems to stop right about there. So I just put a bungee there just to prevent it from wanting to tip this way. So now I've got the forks out. So now I'm going to take the handlebars out and probably take the triples off. So now that I got most of this apart here, I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is replace the triple clamp first. And I'm gonna have to figure out how to get this ignition out of there. right, so we're starting to get the triples back together here. I'm kind of just loosely mocking it in so I can kind of get these all straightened up and then tightened in underneath here. And after that, I should be able to put the ignition back in, which is kind of just hanging right here. But I think these are gonna look super sweet. They're quite pricey, but they look really good. Alright, well these triples look pretty good now. I've got everything tightened in that I really need tightened in. I left these loose because this whole thing's got to come off when I tighten that nut down. But now I have to go on to the forks and start putting the new springs and dampers in there. So I'm going to take these forks apart and put the new springs in, the new dampers. I'll put my other video for the fork disassembly, reassembly. It's the same kind of thing with my 80. It's the same kind of shock, so I'll put the video up, but I'm just going to time lapse this. So to get this little bolt out, I had to use an impact and press down on here to create some resistance on the damper so that it wouldn't spin inside the fork housing. And when you do get the damper out, you've got to switch this little Teflon piece from the old one onto the new one. As you can see, the new one's about 1 inch longer, so I'm gonna switch this over and then reinstall it. So I got one shock done there now. There's the difference between the BBR internals and there's the just the stock fork. So it's probably gonna sit about, I'd say at least 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches higher. So now I'm just, now that I've got the one done, I'm probably just gonna time lapse the second one. Okay, so we got both the forks done now. The other one's down on the floor there. They feel pretty good. Feels like it would definitely support the weight of an adult a little better. It's a little stiffer, but there's a little bit of smoothness to it. So definitely see what happens when it goes on the bike and you take it for a ride. But with that said, it's time to put them back on the bike. So what you want to do when you get this all put together is first of all you torque down the steering stem nut, and after that even with the steering stem nut torqued down, you'll be able to grab the wheel with your knees and just use the bars and just straighten everything out. So take a step back, have a look at it, and then when you're all comfortable with that, then torque everything down and make sure the top of your forks are tight too. So once you got everything all torqued in, next thing you're going to want to do is tighten up the bolts for your handlebars and then put your number plate back on. And last but not least, set your brakes up again. I got this here in the mail. It's a Mikuni pilot jet. It's a size 25. So the one that came in the TB intake in that carburetor that they send, it's a 26 mil Mikuni, and they send a 22.5 pilot jet in there, and that is not what I need. When I started the bike, it just did not run well. It would load up and kind of sputter and then just idle right up to almost full RPM and then idle back down and have trouble running, and I couldn't adjust the idle or air mixture or anything like that. So it seemed like it was starving for fuel, so I'm going to put this 25 jet in and see how that works. So I got the carbon intake back on here, and it seems to me like maybe they send it with a bit small of a pilot jet, because it came with a 22.5 pilot jet. I installed a 25, and it seems to idle nice and fire up nice now with the bigger intake system on it. So this thing seems to be running really well. I could not be happier about it, because when I first started it up with the new intake kit on it, I was pretty disappointed in how it ran. But I put that new pilot jet in it, that 25, and it seems to run great. So now all that's left to do is just tie up a few loose ends and put the plastics back on it. So I got all the plastic on now, so I'm gonna call this build pretty much complete. I'm still waiting on a kickstand, but that's not a big deal. I did that 1.5 inch lift on it. So bit of what I did to it is from front to back, I got the Michelin Starcross 5 tire on it. I did BBR internals, that's the damper and the spring assembly. And we did the Pro Circuit triples with the riser. And on the engine, we went with the TB132 big bore kit, and we went with the TB intake and carb kit. It's actually a Mikuni carb, but that's the one I needed to get the pilot jet for. And on the exhaust system, we went with the Piranha. And so that's the back of the Piranha there. Looks really, really sharp. So on the back tire, we went with the Starcross 5. And there is in here, you can't see it, there is a 1.5 inch lifting link for the suspension. So that's gonna be the end of this video and the end of the build series for this bike. If you've been following along, thanks a lot. If you wanna see more bike builds, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because there's gonna be more. I'm currently doing my 250 back there. Just waiting for more parts now, but that build is definitely gonna be one for the books. So, and there's gonna be more builds after that, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, and I'll just start it up one more time and do a circle around it just so you can hear it one more time.